Actually, I have more sympathy with your situation. My situation, I said, my church is not beset by political enemies. I have no friends in the ministry who have been jailed for their convictions. None of my people suffer from pervasive, awful poverty. How could he have sympathy with my situation? He said, there is so much here. You have so much freedom, so many things. What is left to offer people? What needs do they have which the gospel could fulfill? I have great respect for those of you who preach the gospel and who minister in the situation of North America. There is so much fulfillment and so little emptiness. The gospel feeds on emptiness. Emptiness. We do have so much. Of course, it's not enough, which is one of the things that I think is particularly American, North American, maybe parts of Europe too. We have lots of stuff, lots of possibilities. Not enough, of course, but we have so much. And the African pastor says the gospel feeds on emptiness. So what do? So many millions of fellow Christians around the world have this deep yearning for the Christmas season, for this Christmas date, which they perceive as light and promise and hope. They think that this is the most joyful experience. Hope is born when Christ is born. A new world is promised in Jesus. And they have little else to think about. They have a lot of emptiness. And they have few freedoms. Years ago, many of you read it, I know, Toffler wrote a book called Future Shock. It was a big deal, boy. I don't know how many copies he sold, but his future was not shocked, it was secure after he wrote that book. But in that book, he prophesied that we North Americans might come to suffer from too much freedom and too many choices. Overwhelmed, he predicted, increasing numbers of people would withdraw. They would be safe in a private world, free from so much choice and so much freedom. I believe that's come true. We have so many choices. I often think about kids in school now, getting out of high school and thinking about their future. Look at the choices they have. Look at the possibilities that are open to them. And the statement has been made many times that many of our children will end up with jobs that don't even exist today. Now, some of you are younger in this room and you lap over into this period of time, but many of us, that wasn't true. When we got out of high school, we had a pretty straight path. Yeah, we had choices, but not nearly the choices they have today. And this is implication for churches. You know, we bemoan the fact that the church isn't full, churches are closing. There are more and more churches closing around us. And people are going to stop being shocked by the fact that many churches are closing. They don't have participation anymore. But look at the choices people have. I grew up Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night in church. You think we should start a program like that? Well, let's see, there'd be 3 or 4 of us on Sunday night. Wednesday night, there might be a dozen, maybe. It's too many choices. People have too many places to go. And the criticism of the church is, of course, that with all these choices, we have to perfect everything we do. Everything has to be better because people are exposed to so many wonderful things. We don't want the church to look tacky or cheesy or corny. I can remember when I was in the Navy going to Spain to a church that was growing like crazy because, of course, there were supposed to be no Protestant churches in Spain. That was the Franco era. And here was this small Presbyterian church, which was getting bigger and bigger. And I was told and understood only brokenly because my Spanish wasn't that good, that we were going to be able to hear Miss, whatever her name was, I don't remember now, the wonderful soprano they had was going to be able to sing for us. So here was this group from the Rhoda Christian Fellowship, the Christian Servicemen's Fellowship, and we came there to hear this wonderful soprano. Oh, she was awful. I'm talking about really bad. And when she got done, they stood up and, we were so lucky to have her sing for us. It wasn't about her singing. It was about them being together. And this woman standing up there and belting out this song, we recognized the melody. Obviously, we didn't know the Spanish words to it. And the church can't do that anymore, you know. Anything that we do, there's a lot of pressure on us to do it the best possible way, because if people come here and hear lousy music or bad preaching or whatever, they can go somewhere else and hear good stuff. Even on their radio on the way home in the car, they hear tremendous music. You remember the car radio in the first car you had? Those of you who are over 50? What a tinny, lousy sounding thing that was when it worked. And it was AM only. Now I've got satellite radio. The other night I was listening to news about Sweden. The Swedish news was on television. It was followed by the news from the Czech Republic. Choices, amazing choices. So how do we yearn with all of this? With all this stuff and all these choices to distract us and all the freedom, is it still possible that we can yearn for Christmas? It takes courage to admit that we have emptiness, that we are yearning for something more when we have so much. Not more things, not more stuff, but more about ourselves, more about fulfillment in this life, more meaning, more sense of well-being. It takes courage to look not at the surface of things around us, but instead to look deep, to look at the areas of darkness within ourselves. And the Bible tells us that we all have a fair degree of darkness within us. To explore all those rough places in our own lives and to see them clearly, how they affect us, how they affect others, those rough places we want to make smooth, but quite frankly, we don't always know how to smooth them out. And so often we allow ourselves to be distracted, because that's the easy choice. In a world of deceit and dishonesty, the world in which we live, the church needs to be a place where we look at the gospel, the good news from God, and then honestly compare ourselves with that gospel. Does that gospel point out any emptiness in us? Any lack of concern? Any inability to be tender or compassionate with ourselves as well as with other people? Because quite frankly, most of us are harder on ourselves than we are on anybody else. And then when we honestly compare ourselves, can we admit that we really yearn to see the light of Christmas in our own lives, to light up our own emptiness and our own darkness, because that light is life itself. Amen. It is our custom on Communion Sunday to stand and greet our neighbors and offer them the peace of Christ.